Could T cells and diet be the key to preventing COVID-19? Find out here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You gotta go follow me over there on Instagram. I am at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here for Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page, where Mark and Cinda both came in just now. Thank you guys for being here. We also simulcast over on my YouTube channel, so thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed a live here on Instagram, it's okay, because we do have it on replay for you on IGTV. As soon as this is over here today, within just a few minutes, it goes straight up to IGTV, so you can watch it on replay. Been having a lot of people watch on replay, so if that's you watching this on replay on IGTV, thank you so much for watching. We also have the past episodes up over on YouTube for replay, and then we also have them at the official website, JimmyRants.com. And once you're there, you can see any of the past episodes. 540 something now, I believe, episodes and counting. I also have a few bonus episodes that I throw up over on YouTube, by the way. Yesterday did a bonus episode, about a 35-minute episode, very impromptu, letting you look at my chickens. And so if you want to know what my little backyard chicken setup is like and hear them talking, and I fed them worms and all kinds of stuff, go check out that Jimmy Rants bonus episode over on YouTube. But at JimmyRants.com, see all the past episodes. And while you're there, click on the Patreon link. And you want to get in on the Patreon, guys. I talk about this a lot. You want to support my work, please click on the Patreon, and any donation you give would be greatly appreciated. Well, guess what? I'm about to ramp up giving you guys good, bonuses for being a part of the Patreon. So we will start releasing early the videos for the upcoming week of podcasts. So I do 2 podcasts a week with videos, and so you'll be able to get early access to those on the weekend before those come out, and so you'll be able to see those. I'm also going to do exclusive episodes of Jimmy Rants on there just for my Patreons, and so if you go support, we will start doing some exclusive content. I will also give you guys an opportunity to tell me what you want me to rant about. I will give you some suggestions of things that I have in the queue, and then you can determine what we end up doing here. So really trying to ramp up, giving you an incentive to be a part of my Patreon. It really does help me out, and I am trying to get where I'm fully supported just by Patreon. So if that's you and you like what I do here, please go support my Patreon page. Again, the link is at JimmyRants.com. Okay, you guys, I have a great episode here today. 2 different stories that kind of tie in together. And like it or not, COVID-19 is here. And it's here to stay for a little while. And there's a lot of discussion over the mask, and discussion over the vaccine that's supposedly on the way, and discussions about, social distancing. Are we going to have sports this fall? Are the kids going to go back to school? There's all those kinds of conversations. And one of the conversations I do not hear us talking about is the conversation of prevention of what happens when you get COVID-19 infected. What can we do now, and what are the mechanisms in place in your body, or potentially in your body, to help fight it off even when that time comes that you get exposed to the virus, okay? So a lot of people don't even think about that, partly because we're not getting any information about it from the mainstream. Nobody's telling you go stand out in the sun. Nobody's telling you to take zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D. Nobody's telling you to eat real whole foods and minimize your carbohydrate intake so that you minimize your blood sugar spikes and improve your metabolic health. Nobody's telling you these things unless you're in the alternative health space. But then those of us in the alternative health space are being subjected to censorship and shadow banning and other ways to silence our voice and make it harder for people to find our voices. And so Congratulations. If you are watching this, you made it through all the muckety-muck to get to be able to see all of this information. But you're not going to hear what I'm about to share with you here today on today's Jimmy Rants. You're not going to hear in the mainstream. And to me, that's unfortunate. We should be doing all that we can to talk about prevention and protection in the body from the COVID-19 infection. Like, why is this not top of the news? Hey guys, this is what you should be doing if you want to improve your odds of doing well against COVID-19 if and when that time comes that you get exposed to it. So, all right, so let's get to the first thing here. This is from Reuters, and it's scientists focusing on how the immune system T cells fight the coronavirus in the absence of antibodies. Everybody's talking about, okay, do you have the antibodies? Do you have the antibodies? Do you have the antibodies? Meaning you've had exposure to it and your body has created antibodies to be able to fight it off. Well, this story says that there's a part of your immune system that's much better than the antibodies. Check this out, guys. As scientists question whether the presence of or absence of antibodies to the coronavirus can reliably determine immunity, some are looking to another component of the immune system called the T cells for their role in protecting people during the pandemic. Recent studies have shown that some recovered patients who tested negative for coronavirus antibodies actually developed T cells in response to their COVID-19 infection. While the studies are small and have yet to be reviewed by any outside experts, some scientists are now saying that people who have a mild illness or no symptoms at all from the new coronavirus may be eliminating the infection altogether simply through a T cell response. So those of you that have gotten tested for COVID-19, gotten tested for the antibodies, and you come back a big fat negative. I've not been tested for COVID-19, but I have had one confirmed antibodies test that I did and got the results back. It was negative. I don't have any antibodies for COVID-19. I did a second one as part of a study that I'm a part of with the Oura Ring. They sent me a kit. I recently sent that back in. I do not have the results to it yet. But what they're saying here is some people who had very mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, the supposed asymptomatic, might have fought off COVID-19 without developing antibodies. Have you heard anybody talking about this out there in the mainstream? It's all about, okay, if you've had it, you've got the antibodies in your system. If you haven't had it, then you're going to test negative and you should be susceptible. You're going to be susceptible, blah, 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 right? This adds a new wrinkle to it. Because how do we now quantify all those people whose T cells have responded to COVID-19, has fought it off, so it didn't even trigger an antibody response, and yet their body fought it off successfully? I haven't heard anybody talk about this. These findings add to the evidence that an effective COVID-19 vaccine needs to prompt T cells to work as well as producing antibodies, and it may have implications for several treatments in development. They may also shed light on how immunity to new exposure to infection could work. So obviously the bent of the news story is to say, well, this is a revelation for how we can develop a vaccine that will mimic the effects of having the T cells. No, let's stop with all that. How about we do things that can improve the immune system, and through the immune system getting improved, your T cells will improve as well. So Dr. Alessandro Setti, a professor and member of the La Jolla Institute's Infectious Disease and Vaccine Center in California, said there is mounting evidence that people exposed to the virus have a very transient antibody response, or they have a T cell response in spite of a minor or absent antibody response. This is huge, guys. We're all being told that, if you get COVID-19, it'll show up on the antibodies test. What if you've had COVID-19? Maybe you had a little minor cough. Maybe you had, sore throat. Maybe you had, this or that symptom of COVID-19 that wasn't severe enough to go to the doctor, but you noticed it. Maybe you had a severe fatigue. A couple months ago, I had sudden fatigue that just wiped me out. like wiped me out unlike any sickness I'd had in years. And I had to lay down and take naps throughout that day. I had it for a full day, day and a half, and then it went away. Was that my body fighting it off or some other thing off? Did my T cells actually kick in and kick that thing in the nuts and get it out of here without antibodies happening? Because I got the antibody test after that happened, and when it came back negative, I was a little surprised because I was just sure that I had fought it off. Now we're seeing that your body can fight it off with just T cells, which are a part of your immune system as well, before antibody production even happens. Like, are you surprised by this? And maybe you've had the antibody test and it came back negative and you were like, well, wait a minute, I felt like I had something. It could be you're one of those people where your T cells also fought it off. So when a virus gets past the body's initial defenses, which includes infection-fighting white blood cells, a more specific adaptive response kicks in, which triggers a production of cells that target the invader. These include antibodies that can recognize a virus, lock onto it, prevent its entry into a person's cells, as well as T cells that can kill both invaders and the cells that have become infected. 6 months into this COVID-19 pandemic that has infected more than 12 million people, questions remain about whether antibody response to the virus is robust and lasts over time. That could mean that T cells have a more important role in offering protection against the illness. Yeah, they always talk about, okay, well, yeah, you develop the antibodies, but how long do the antibodies last? Can it prevent you from getting COVID-19 a second time, or will you have susceptibility to getting it again? That's all the things that scientists are currently looking into. But they're saying the T cells now seem to be playing a more important role than even the antibodies. John Wary, the director of the University of Pennsylvania's Institute for Immunology, says T cells are often important in controlling viral infections. We are seeing evidence of that. So this is very much a viral infection. It is a virus, COVID-19. And so T cells, guys, why aren't we hearing this from Dr. Fauci? Why aren't we hearing this from the powers that be that tell us about this part of the immune system? Again, they've said nothing about boosting your own immune system, only masks, gloves, social distancing, stay at home, quarantine, vaccine. Literally haven't heard anything about, here's guys what you need to do to boost your immunity and boost your immune system and improve your T cell response. Nothing of the sort. A recent small French study, not yet reviewed by experts, found that 6 out of 8 family members in close contact with relatives who had COVID-19 all developed a T cell response, but did not test positive for the antibodies. So again, if you joined us late, everybody's saying get tested for the antibodies, and if you've had COVID-19, it'll only show up there if you show antibody present. Well, now we're learning that T cells are a much more important part of this, and the T cell response to COVID-19 may be happening without any antibodies showing up. A Swedish study of 200 people found a strong T cell response in most individuals who had mild illness or no symptoms following a coronavirus infection, regardless of whether they showed an antibody response or not. The findings suggest that the coronavirus infection rates may be much higher than we already know, because all they're doing is looking at confirmed cases and antibody tests. What about all those people whose body fought this off with their T cells? Are we underreporting exposure? Are we underreporting recovery? This seems to suggest that. The focus on T cell responses could also shed light on the prospect for longer-term immunity. There's some evidence that T cells developed after exposure to other coronaviruses that cause the common cold, for example, could help to fight SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. A study that's led by La Hala Institute detected T cells that reacted to COVID-19 in about half of the stored blood samples collected between 2015 and 2018. Did you get that? before COVID-19 was COVID-19, they had blood samples stored that had been collected from 2015 to 2018. T cells reacted to half of them in a positive way to destroy the COVID-19 virus. How? How did they fight it off? Didn't have the antibodies to COVID-19. How did that happen? T cells. It suggests that the immune system cells developed after previous infections, including the common cold, with circulating coronaviruses like the common cold, and that they might help to protect you against the new virus. So if you've had a bad cold before, and who hasn't, we all have, and your body has fought that thing off and it has created strong enough T cell production, it actually helps to fight this new coronavirus we call COVID-19. And in this one study, over half of the blood samples of people fought off COVID-19 with just the T cells from this old blood that was in storage. Which begs the question, guys, if we've already got T cell production to the point that it can fight this thing off, and we don't show antibodies and we test negative for COVID-19, how many of us have been exposed to this and we don't know it? How many of us actually have been infected, had mild to no response at all, and our body's immune system did exactly what it was supposed to do? Does this anger anybody? Like all the numbers they keep throwing out there on a daily basis. Oh, the new cases. The new. Okay, great. What if it's only 10% of the actual? What if the numbers they're reporting is way under what the actual is, because most people's T cells have done the job to take care of COVID-19. You're not hearing this anywhere in the mainstream, guys. This is why I wanted to bring this to you today. This is all an encouraging, potentially piece of evidence to this puzzle. Vaccine candidates against COVID-19 currently in the works. They aim to generate antibody and T cell response, and the recent findings highlight the importance of gauging T cell response seen in human clinical trials. We believe that the optimal vaccine design would be one that induces both an antibody and T cell response. Okay, can I just pause for a second on this vaccine? Great, we're working on a vaccine. Great, people are going to take this thing and they think it's the bee's knees for preventing this thing and curing this thing and blah, 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 blah. Why aren't we telling people how you boost your own T cell response? Why aren't we telling people how you boost your own immune system so that the antibodies can kick in and go all Chuck Norris on COVID-19 if it gets inside your body? To me, this waiting with bated breath for a vaccine is getting kind of nauseating. I get it. There will be people that are susceptible to this that can't change or won't change or whatever that this will be good for. But the vast majority of people, if you educate them on how to properly boost your immune system, then you could actually fight this thing off without the need for a vaccine. Okay? If you want to take a vaccine and you think that's the answer to your every woe in your body, then by all means take the thing when it comes out. For a lot of people, they just need education on what they can do to boost their own immunity. And right now, we're not getting any information of the sort. After an infection or a vaccination, the immune system retains a number of memory cells that are already primed to quickly attack the same virus in case you are infected in the future. Many countries are using blood tests that look for antibodies to estimate how many people have been infected with the new virus, even if they never had any symptoms before. But scientists still do not know how many antibody levels correlate to exposure to the virus or how long they last. These are also questions about exactly which combination of immune cells will result in protection. Measuring the level of memory T cells is a lot more complicated than antibodies, especially if those cells are in the lymph nodes or other hard to access areas of the body. In addition, T cell responses are very highly variable. It's a lot easier to collect antibodies than it is T cells. So guys, I thought this was fascinating that you're not hearing anybody talk about T cells as part of the immune system. Just, oh, you need your antibodies to kick in to fight this thing off. But what if T cells are really the thing fighting it off in most people? And yet it's almost undetectable in those people. What if you've had COVID-19 and you overcame it already because your T cells did their job? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't have any idea. It would not show up in antibody tests. It would not show up unless you're actively have the coronavirus, COVID-19 in you. It would not test in a COVID-19 test, right? All right, but I have another story here from foodmed.net. COVID-19 diet, best weapon for protection and survival? You can wait around hoping for a vaccine to fight the COVID-19 coronavirus, or you could use a weapon already close at hand in your kitchen. It is diet, but it's not just any diet. It's the low carbohydrate diet. Now, let me be very clear. I'm the low carb guy. I have been for over 15 years. Nobody is saying that a low carb, ketogenic, carnivore, paleo, real food diet is the cure for COVID-19. So let's make that extraordinarily clear up front. Nobody is saying that. What I am going to say here, and what they're saying in this article here today, is if you want to put your body in the best position for fighting this, you need to fix your metabolic health. And what's the major issue with most people's metabolic health? They have insulin resistance and they have metabolic syndrome, which is an indication of high blood sugar, high blood insulin levels, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, high inflammation levels. I could go on and on and on of all the symptoms of insulin resistance metabolic syndrome. But the point here is low carb puts you in the best position to improve metabolic syndrome. Compelling research shows that low carb diets treat and prevent serious underlying conditions that can significantly up your risk of dying from the virus. Chief among these is obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, also hypertension, high blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke that fall under the medical umbrella of metabolic syndrome. All of these are called the diseases of lifestyle. They define lifestyle diseases as a medical condition or disorder resulting from lifestyle habits, and diet is a major habit contributing to this lifestyle disease. Now, if you've been following Jimmy Moore for any length of time, you know I've been talking about this for years. I've written a ton of books all about this topic of your metabolic health. Most notably is the book Keto Clarity, talking about how eating this way actually improves just about every area of your what's called your cardiometabolic health. And so you want to improve those things, and diet seems to have that powerful effect on the body. Globally, expert voices for low-carb diets for protection have grown louder since the pandemic began. So loud you could be forgiven for thinking that it's a no-brainer. Yeah, a lot of us in the low-carb kind of keto space have been like shouting this so long that people are like, yeah, we know. But the average person does not know. It actually remains extraordinarily controversial to tell people to change their diet to boost their immunity. The latest authoritative voice raised in support of low carb is Australian researcher Dr. Marianne Damasi. She wrote an editorial in the BMJ Evidence-Based Medicine, which I have that editorial printed out. I wanted to focus in on the T-cell thing first and then talk about this. I will probably do a separate Jimmy Rants just on that BMJ Evidence-Based Medicine article written by Marianne Damasi. She's an investigative medical journalist with a PhD in rheumatology. She's also the deputy director of the Institute of Scientific Freedom. In her editorial, she poses the question, COVID-19 and metabolic syndrome, could diet be the key? She answers in the affirmative and, as usual, backs it up with references. Damasi does not knock government-mandated social distancing and good hand hygiene. Those things are good. Like, nobody is saying, don't wash your hands, don't physically distance, don't wear a mask, don't do all the things you already do. What we're saying is, okay, those are the starting point. you want to really make headway, here's some other things you should do, and this is where talking about the diet comes into play. She says the governments pay too little attention to the potential impact of diet on health outcomes. And as she shows, the latest COVID-19 pandemic is no exception. Poor diet is the most significant contributor to the burden of chronic lifestyle-related diseases, Damasi wrote. She refers to the rapid transmission of the virus that has provided little opportunity to conduct adequate research on whether patients with COVID-19 fare better on low carb as compared with other diets. This has been funny to me. Like whenever I posted doctors online who are treating patients with COVID-19, and they're doing things a little bit off the beaten path of what everybody else is doing, people are like, well, where's the randomized controlled clinical trial, double-blind, placebo, 2-year study? I'm like, are you kidding me? We're in the midst of a global pandemic. If a doctor is finding efficacy in a treatment, don't we want to look at that treatment if he's finding high levels of survival and recovery? I think we do. RCTs are a little bit out the window in that context. What she discreetly doesn't talk about is all the vested interests that are involved in treatment and protection methods to date, and all the experimentation. Doctors have resorted to using powerful drugs with off-label despite side effects and lack of evidence for both safety and efficacy. What she's saying in this article is, look, in the midst of something like this, doctors are trying all kinds of things. This is why they practice medicine, guys. They're trying to see what will work. And right now, when it's such a question mark of what will work, you do all the things you can until you find something that does work. That's all with the best of intentions to save lives and mitigate suffering, but it's not surprising given how little doctors really know about any effective treatment for COVID-19. And of course, there's good reason some have called it the unknown virus with multiple faces. The reality is, though, there's no consensus on how best people can and all should protect themselves from it. And because of that, I think we have all hands on deck. I think we have every modality that shows potential for working needs to be considered, which has kind of been the upsetting part of watching all this censorship that takes place of, oh, well, we can hear this voice, but oh, this is a quack over here. Oh, it's been debunked. We don't really know that this works. Okay, but if a doctor's finding efficacy in something, we don't need to throw that out. We need to look at it, consider it, and then apply it if it actually works. There's already a wealth of robust evidence showing that dietary carbohydrate restriction is a safe and effective way to achieve good glycemic control and weight loss. It also reduces the needs for medication in the management of type 2 diabetes. As well, compared to low-fat diets, low-carb diets are shown to be superior for achieving glucose control. They are also more effective at limiting cardiovascular risk in the short and long term for those people who have type 2 diabetes. Thus, the evidence currently supporting low-carb, high healthy fat diets for COVID-19 protection and treatment. Damasi gives the evidence in her editorial showing that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, that among the COVID-19 cases, the two most common underlying health conditions were cardiovascular disease, almost a third, and diabetes, almost a third. U.S. research showing that hospitalizations 6 times higher amongst those patients with an underlying condition, 45%, than those without, 7.6%. A study showing deaths 12 times higher among patients with reported underlying conditions, which is 20%, compared to without, 1.6%. UK research shows 2/3 of those who became seriously ill with the virus were overweight or obese. Italian research, get this one, showed 99% of COVID-19 deaths in patients all had pre-existing conditions like hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. In other words, the healthy are not dying from this. It's the metabolically unhealthy that are dying from this. She explains the mechanism and driver behind the psychophysiology of metabolic syndrome that significantly raises the death risk from the virus. It's called insulin resistance. She defines it as an impaired biological response to insulin, the hormone that regulates blood glucose, This dysregulation of blood glucose levels plays an important role in inflammation and respiratory disease. She also references a study of patients with COVID-19 with pre-existing type 2 diabetes, and it showed that those with better regulated blood glucose control fared a lot better than those who had out of control blood glucose. More major evidence came too late for inclusion in this editorial. It is a multi-centered retrospective study by Chinese researchers from July 10th, 2020. It has limitations. However, the conclusion is robust. Fasting blood glucose at admission is an independent predictor for 28-day mortality in patients with COVID-19 without any previous diagnosis of diabetes. In other words, their blood sugar was out of control. They had a harder time with COVID-19. So given all the above, it raises the question, why is there still so much vigorous vocal opposition to a low-carb, high-fat diet as a shield against COVID-19? It's a reluctance in certain quarters to accept evidence of the benefits in the midst of a global pandemic. Like if we know out-of-control blood sugar levels are contributing to COVID-19 ravaging the body of people that have high blood sugars more than those who have more normalized blood sugars, why would we not implement a modality that gets blood sugar levels under control? And we know a low-carb diet does that like a champ. But they don't want to acknowledge that. Why? Are they that diehard into their dogma about low-fat diets and about low-carb, messing with your brain health, about eating animal-based foods, clogging your arteries, blah, 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 blah? Are they really that worried about all that right now? To me, there's bigger fish to fry. It underlines the contentious scientific environment in which she writes her editorial and the BMJ publishes it. Damasi exposes the reason for that reluctance. These diets contradict the official guidelines. They do. The guidelines recommend carbohydrates making up 45 to 65% of your calories. They also call for a low-fat, high-carb diet, which can make high blood sugar even worse. Those dietary guidelines form the basis of menus in nursing homes where people are being ravaged by this COVID-19, hospital wards, and pre-existing metabolic syndrome are undergoing recovery and respite. The guidelines originated in the U.S., have far-reaching influence. The guidelines are revised every 5 years, and the latest is set to come out later this year. It's putting it mildly to say that these are scathing about the weak science behind the revision. And I did a whole Jimmy Rants just the other day about that final version of the 2020 Dietary Guidelines being incredibly inept. We went backwards. We did not go forwards. Most of the doctors and dietitians prescribe the dietary guidelines. They drive many programs in America and around the world. They're the most powerful lever on America's idea about healthy eating, and they should be called the MISS guidelines. I like that. All right, so they go into what they don't like about the guidelines. I don't want to bore you with that because I said that the other day. There are glimmers of hope. Harvard University's School of Public Health issued a press release this year. It advises fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts, moderate consumption of fish, dairy foods, poultry, limited intake of red and processed meat, refined carbs, and sugar. But a 2018 position statement by Diabetes Australia reflects reliable evidence that lower carb eating can be safe and useful in reducing blood glucose levels and body weight, managing heart disease risk factors like cholesterol and blood pressure. The ADA in 2019 and Diabetes Canada in 2020 now endorses low-carb diets. Leading medical institutions, including a US-based hospital in West Virginia and in the UK, openly support this link between diet and chronic disease. And sponsorship by the prestigious Johns Hopkins Hospital of clinical trials on low-carb diets are coming up as well. So good news on that front. In September of 2020, researchers are going to test the hypothesis that using a very low-carb, very high healthy fat diet will improve outcomes for COVID-19 patients who require ventilation, which brings us to the conclusion in the editorial by Marianne Damasi. Dietary carbohydrate restriction is a simple and safe intervention, results in rapid improvements in your glycemic control. It can also be implemented alongside usual care in a medical or domestic setting. The pathophysiology of COVID-19 is multifactorial, but insulin resistance is among the strongest determinants of impaired metabolic function. She's calling on governments and policymakers globally to start adopting and endorsing the dietary advice for people with underlying metabolic syndrome. This is happening right now. Boris Johnson in the UK, he's the prime minister there. He is pushing for this, you guys, to get dietary advice changed and the way that they market, especially sugary kinds of foods to kids, at what hours and that kind of thing. There's good things happening over in the UK. And I'm hoping that that bleeds over here into the States. This will go a long way towards mitigating the burden of pre-existing metabolic disease in those who contract COVID-19 now and in the future. So what do you think about this? We have T cells that are a part of your immune system fighting off COVID-19 even without the presence of antibodies. Even without a diagnosis of COVID-19, you might have been exposed. And it could be because a lot of you guys eat a lower carb, real food diet that you've strengthened your immune system to the point that you don't need a vaccine. You didn't need to do anything other than just do the things that you're doing, and your immune system is strong enough to fight this thing off. It's good news on the COVID-19 front. The problem is, outside of Jimmy Rants, where are you going to hear this stuff? You're not going to hear this on the mainstream news. You're not going to hear anybody from a mainstream news outlet tell you anything about, oh, we're all waiting for the vaccine. That's literally all they're stuck on right now. And again, that vaccine will be helpful, I suppose, to people that refuse to change their diet and their lifestyle. But for the rest of us that have a brain, we're more than happy to change our diet and lifestyle. And if it was articulated to them, hey, you can boost your immune system now, and within probably 4 to 6 weeks have a radically different metabolic system just by eating a low carb ketogenic diet, and you will have a fighting chance if COVID-19 hits your body. How many would not sign up for that? I think most would. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Going to come over here to Instagram first, then over to Facebook. I did see my Facebook, the iPad, just gave me a warning of too low a battery. It's hooked up to a battery, so I don't know why it's running out of juice. So if I lose you suddenly, that would be why. Sorry about that, Facebook. And then over to my YouTube channel. But let's see what you guys have to say over here on Instagram. JimmyRands.com is the website. Can't T cells defend us from COVID? Yes, average 333. That's what I said at the very beginning here. Anabolic steroids increase T cells a lot. Yeah, well, I'm not encouraging anabolic steroids, but certainly not as a preventative measure. I suppose once you get COVID-19 and you might be having symptoms. Maybe that's why when I posted the other day about that doctor using inhalable steroids, that he was getting results from these patients that got it. Maybe that's what it was doing. It was boosting their T cell production to the point that they were able to fight this thing off. Renee says, I have fever and severe body aches for 2 days and then it's gone. Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that they had a mysteriousness of illness that they'd never felt before, and it hit like real quick and then it was gone. And it's like, did you have COVID-19 and not know it? Maybe. Hey, Tara Garrison, she says, great share. I'm with you 100%. Thank you. Kat says, boosting and optimizing the immune response are two different things, and immune system is very complicated, not fully understood. That's true. But this T cell development is pretty darn interesting. Our body, our immune system are the best, the smartest, unless we mess with it. Not poisoning our bodies goes a long way. No toxic lifestyle, foods, relationships, habits. Yes, and thank you for noting that it's all of those things, not just the food. even if there was a vaccine available, I'm not sure I'd get it yet. Yeah, Liz, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are very dubious of this vaccine potential as well. So thank you, Instagram. All right, I'm going to come over here to my YouTube channel, or my Facebook channel. I just got a warning that I'm down to 5%. I'm going to switch battery packs because that's making me nervous. I'm going to lose you guys in the middle of this. So if I'm in the middle of answering your question and I just suddenly go away, you'll know why. But maybe this battery pack will work better. I'm trying desperately to keep you guys from disappearing. So just know I got you back here. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Pull you in a little bit closer so I can see you. Nancy says, I think you are being overly optimistic on how many people will give up their sugar and bad carbs. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm saying they should. I know most people want their sugar and bad carbs. So no, I'm not overly optimistic at all. Obviously, I've been in this space a very long time trying to teach people. But yeah, you're right. Most people aren't paying attention. Most people would rather take a pill and keep eating the junk than credit the pill with making them healthier when it's really just covering up the medical issue. But it's helpful to spread the message. Well, that's been my total jam the last 15 plus years, Nancy, is to spread the message, and hopefully a few people are being saved in the process. Marie says the T-cell memory theory is very interesting. Was reading a study about this. Yeah, I think we need to be hearing more about this because it was really fascinating to me. Thank you, Facebook. Let's pop over here now to my YouTube channel, see what you guys have to say on this one. Craig says, what are your thoughts on why the media hasn't focused on how one can boost their immune system to lower the chances of having a negative outcome? I think a lot of it has to do with money. And that's just my jaded view. There's too much money to be made on a vaccine. Pharmaceutical companies, and I had a Jimmy Rants ready to go that I wanted to talk about all the money that the pharmaceutical companies have made since COVID-19 went down. Guys, we're talking tens of billions of dollars. There is a ton of money that's going to be made off of this disease. And so I bet a part of the marketing budget for getting that vaccine to the market is let's pay off all of these media outlets. And this is just my theory. You can prove me wrong or whatever, but my theory is that they're basically giving kickbacks to all these places that could harm them, that are bought and paid for. And it's unfortunate that money speaks like that, but we know that. That's how the world goes round. Money talks. And so you're right. They should be telling us how we can boost our own immune system. They should be giving us advice to get out in the sun and taking zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D and blah, 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 blah. They should be doing all those things, but they're not. Which is why people like me and others in the alternative health space are trying to educate people to stop looking at all that nonsense on the news, to just socially distance, just wash hands, just wear a mask, blah, 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 and doing nothing of the sort to try to boost their own immune system through better diet and other means in your lifestyle. But it's disheartening, isn't it? All right, let's come back over here to Instagram, see if there's any final thoughts. And I don't see any. So guys, important information. T cells in your immune system, and if you joined us way late, you might have missed the first story I talked about. There is new evidence that perhaps some people have been exposed to COVID-19, that their body's T cells fought it off without any antibodies showing up. So if you went and got an antibody test and it showed up negative, you might think you haven't had COVID-19, but maybe you had extremely minor symptoms. And maybe that's why some people, like a lot of the researchers, are confounded. Why are some people very, very minor symptoms to no symptoms, and other people get ravaged by this? And the no symptom and minor symptom ones, I think their T cell strength is strong and fought this thing off. So important information that we need to keep in mind especially as you keep hearing things about the vaccine, and you keep hearing things about, oh no, what are we going to do? And you keep hearing the doom and gloom of increased caseload, increased hospitalization, increased death, increased this, increased that. At the end of the day, you are in control of your own immune system. And let this encourage you. Maybe you've already fought this thing off. And there's no way to quantify it because you can't test for the T cells. They said it's near the lymph node, so it's not an easy, convenient place to get a swab to see if you have the T cells production that would fight COVID-19. But if you've had a previous coronavirus, this was the other thing in that article. If you've had previous coronaviruses, which includes the common cold, which is everybody, half of the blood samples from common cold coronaviruses actually fought off the T cells in that, actually fought off the COVID-19 in half of the samples. Huge take home, guys. And I hope this was encouraging to you here today. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is a website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, as well as on my YouTube channel, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Be there, be square. We also have it on replay for you if you want to watch the replay right here on IG. Go to IGTV when this is over and you can watch it on replay. You can also see the replay over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show, and then finally pop on over to JimmyRants.com. You can also access all the videos there. And while you're there, click on the Patreon link. And if you joined us late today, I have revamped the Patreon. If you support my work and present a donation, I am going to be committed to giving you exclusive content, including Jimmy Rants episodes just for my Patreon people. So thank you for signing up. Click on that little link, Patreon, at JimmyRants.com. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again real soon. Bye.